Why don't we head straight to Parliament, where the majority is addressing the nation, as I indicated, on the state of the economy.
In Kwabenya, in Greater Accra, we are also going to address that. Pentecost University Road, Major to Olebu. These are critical internal roads in Greater Accra, and there are so many. Adenta Dodua, dualization, because we believe that the road is gradually being very narrow and difficult for vehicles coming on both sides, and so we think that dualizing that stretch will help a great deal. And the Baptist school to in the Lejekuku area, we are also looking to address that particular road, the partial bypass of North of Angkor John Tay bypass. You would note that the Pokwasi interchange, which is currently going on under the Zomain construction funded by the African Development Bank, will also see a lot of improvements in the roadworks from Pokwasi all the way through Riss Junction to the motorway. And the minister had already indicated in the media review that plans are far advanced on the Accra-Kumasi, which is also coming up, the Accra outer roads, because we think that in addressing the traffic situation in the city, there must be an outer ring road. But that outer ring road is also being worked on by the ministry on a different funding mechanism. But of course, if you look at all these roads that we are preparing in Greater Accra, they are meant to ensure that we have a smooth and easy flow of traffic within the city without necessarily causing any congestion in the city, but allow for free flow of the traffic. And these roads are quite detailed. I'm sure you would have noted that in the phase one, many of the projects are urban related. They are in the urban centers, and they are spread across the 10 regions of Ghana. And many are highways and urban roads. But in the second phase, which the ministry is currently working on, you will see massive road infrastructure in the rural areas of Ghana. And so that will have a lot more rural roads, because you cannot have such a great opportunity to construct roads and only concentrate on roads in the urban centers and roads that link regions. But of course, you also want that people in the rural areas get a feel of this barter facility arrangement which the Ghana government is engaged in. And so the second phase, which will take off pretty soon, and I'm sure by which time we'll have opportunity to engage the media and also let you in to the particular roads that we are looking at. So you go to Brongahafu, Atebubu, Kojokrom Road, which is an old road, it's been captured, Sunyani Inner Ring Road. It's a critical road. Those of you from that part of the country will admit that the Sunyani Inner City roads are very important and must be done. That is the road all the way through Chira and serves as a bypass for Sunyani. We are working on that road also. And in Cape Coast, we have some major roads in the Cape Coast city, which this particular facility is going to help bring up. The Anomabu roads, the Abra New Community Area, Cape Coast Polytechnic Road, and other selected roads within the Cape Coast municipality are also going to be addressed. The Brekum Inner City roads in the Brongahafu region, we are going to look at that very seriously. In Upper West, we are talking about the Laura Heng Tumu Road. Quite recently, the president was on that stretch. Part of that road has been constructed from Navrongo up to Tumu, and the rest that must be constructed is Tumu Heng into Laura, which will now be the only road that connects the Upper East with the Upper West region of Ghana. And then the last one, which I earlier mentioned, is the Wulugu-Basinkpa Road, which will be the road that connects Upper West to Northern region. There is already a road that connects Northern region to Upper East, which is the Tamale-Bolga stretch. And so we would have had a complete triangle in the northern sector. It will be easier for agricultural activities and movement of goods and services across the three northern regions in a triangular form, because all those roads would have been constructed and captured under the Sino-Hydro facility. And these are but some of the critical roads. In the Volta region, we have the Jasikai Dodi Peposun Kwanta Road, which is quite a huge stretch. And you know that those of you in the media will have fond memories of this particular road and the brouhaha that surrounds it. In fact, it's a 140-kilometer road. So you can imagine that once that road is being put in place, this is a road that runs through about 3 or 4 regions of our country, and we hope that it will help a great deal in opening up the eastern line, and the eastern corridor roads will help a great deal in terms of agriculture, irrigation activities, and goods and services that we all enjoy. Don't forget, all the kunkumba yam we enjoy in Accra comes from that road. So those of you who are yam lovers will know that that road is a must-do in order to open up that part of the country to the capital city. So I'm sure I can share with you the full list of the roads. We are also taking into account roads within the bauxite area. So Ninahini to Awisesu, and then Ninahini to Chichire. These are critical roads we can't do much about. We have to ensure that those roads are constructed because the bauxite is going to be mined from there, and you know it's going to involve a lot of heavy vehicles and heavy trucks and heavy equipment, and so we must ensure that since that is a rural area, the roads are properly done and they are able to withstand the heavy duty vehicles that will be plying that road whilst the integrated bauxite authority starts their work. And so we think that even within the facility, we must address the bauxite routes, and those have also been captured in the Ashanti region. So these roads have been carefully chosen, and to be very fair, these roads have a clear national representation, and you would realize that every part of this country is being captured under the Sino facility for the first phase. And it is important that the country comes behind this initiative. This is a new way of financing which we are looking at. Other African countries have gone this route and they have made tremendous impact in terms of impacting the economy and the local economy and kickstarting development in those particular areas where these facilities have been completed. So, Mr. Ponkruma, these are the highlights from the Roads Ministry as far as this facility is concerned. Thank you very much.
Cabo, thank you for those highlights. So, colleagues, all of this is within the first phase. That's the $500 million, about 2.5 billion cedis equivalent within the first phase. Now, as I mentioned earlier, once this first phase is out of the box and construction starts on the ground, or even before then, once this first phase is out of the processes, we are going to go to the phase 2, where the specific projects for phase 2, and phase 2 is about $1.5 billion, projects that cover, again, the length and breadth of this country, and that will go beyond roads. As I mentioned earlier, you have some hospitals and some other facilities in there. So once this is out of the box, then we'll focus attention on the phase 2 projects, which, again, will cut across the country. Now, there are some benefits that I want to speak to. First of all, one of the key things in this negotiation or this structure is that about 30% of the work has to be reserved for local subcontractors. So of all of this 2 billion big envelope we are talking about 30% of it will go to local subcontractors. What this arrangement also does is that because it is neither tax revenue or debt financing that we are using, but a barter of our bauxite resources, it allows us to have some more fiscal space even as we try and improve on our domestic revenues to attend to other things in the country. Because you recall that traditionally, if you want to do massive infrastructure of this nature, you either go, borrowing, or then you would have to hike up rates quite significantly. But this arrangement allows us to do this and at the same time create more fiscal space to attend to some of our other needs. The President has been speaking extensively about Ghana Beyond Aid, getting Ghana to a point where we're able to use our resources to finance the things that we desire. And if I just may give you some numbers, if we had used the old model of saying, let people mine our bauxite resources and pay us royalties and income tax on it, a ton of bauxite is about $24. So you're going to get royalties and taxes on $24 per ton. By working out this arrangement that allows us to refine our own bauxite, a ton of refined bauxite or a ton of alumina is trading around $300 per ton. And you can therefore see in this joint venture arrangement, depending on what our stake is, how much of that we are accruing and how much of that we therefore use in repaying for the work that has been done. Of course, it will come with significant job creation in many parts of the country when these projects start up, and it will open up the beneficiary sectors of our economy, as my colleague Cabo mentioned, for increased economic activity. As you would recall, the minority opposed this transaction on the floor of the House because, in their view, they say it is a loan, and until we declare it as such, they will not come behind this transaction. We are hopeful that when the work starts and the benefits start accruing to the people of Ghana and the repayment in bauxite or aluminium or alumina starts, they will come around and support future transactions of this nature. The final thing I want to speak to is how, for example, this affects what we would have been doing ordinarily. So let me use the 2018 budget for a little example. In the 2018 budget, the revised spending on CAPEX, capital expenditures, about 6.3 billion Ghana cedis. Instantly, by having this deal approved and commencement of work, even if we're able to absorb only 25%, that's a quarter of this 500 million in this year. That's an estimate of about 580 million Ghana cedis on top of our 6.3 billion cedis that ordinarily, based on our local revenues and our deficit, we can afford to spend on infrastructure this year. What this arrangement does is that instantly adds about 500 million Ghana cedis plus to what we can spend on CAPEX this year. And if you look into the medium-term expenditure framework from 2019 going, in 2019, for example, our CAPEX projection is about 9 billion. Again, if you work out the numbers, this transaction will automatically add another about 2 billion to the 9 billion that our own strength, looking again at our domestic revenues and our deficit numbers, can afford. So a structure like this significantly impacts what we are seeking to and helps us to quicken our steps at developing infrastructure across the country without overburdening our books. And so, colleagues, in summary, this is the main thrust of our discussion this afternoon in our presentation. We'll take a few questions limited to this particular matter. And then maybe if I get some guidance, we may take one or two questions on other matters. But for the next about 10 minutes, let's take questions on this particular matter. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Minister. My name is Prince Alvaro for Conkever, and my goes to the Deputy Minister of the Road. Those who are going to benefit with this data project, I heard you mention cables, but you know, Kasua has become a gateway to cables. I hear you mention Kasua.
So that is the majority's press conference led or addressed by Kojo Oponkrumah, Deputy Information Minister, there talking about the China Sino Hydro facility there, which is bringing in about $500 million according to them, which translates, which converted is 2.5 billion cedis. Earlier on, we heard the Deputy Roads Minister, Anthony Cabo, speaking about the road project, and he did indicate that there is going to be a massive focus on rural development when it comes to this particular facility there. Let's go back to Parliament now, where Kojo Oponkrumah is addressing the media.
To pay for the work that has been done. Your second question is about interest, and I like that question because it gives me an opportunity to explain something. You see, when we came to Parliament, on the term sheet, you find interest, etc. in it, and I noticed an attempt to interpret that to mean that there was interest associated with it. No. If you read the documentation, the project financing is arranged by Sino Hydro at their own cost, but we want to get value for money. So we have to see through whatever interest that they are paying on whatever monies that they are taking, so that they don't come and tell you that they paid 30% interest and shortchange you by not giving you the full value of infrastructure you should get. So they are handling all of those, and we'll capitalize that within the 2 billion envelope for us. But we need to see through it to get value for money. So simply put, Sino Hydro is capitalizing all of its cost for us, and that's what we are paying over the 12 years, aside the first 3 years, within which period we want to put the infrastructure in place. Currently, we have about 1 billion estimated about 1 billion metric tons of bauxite nationwide. We are just finishing work on a validation of that. Consultants have been on the ground in the various areas between Minahini, Etiwa, and Awaso. They are finishing work to validate that one. And what we're expecting to put in place is a plant that can do even about 2 million tons a year, so that we will have enough to process and get value at the end to repay for the work that is being done for us. So let me go around, take 3 more questions, and then we'll come to. There's no lady. One lady. All of the mining that is being done in this country or will be done in this country will conform to the best environmental practices. So the concerns that are being raised by some persons, as genuine and as valid as they are, will be factored into eventually the kind of work that goes on. The EPA will all be involved in granting the final, may I say, grants or licenses. So I think we can rest assured that as much as is possible, we will follow the best practices to ensure that we don't throw the ecology out of gear. There was a lady here whose hand was up. Yes, and then I'll take about 2 others. Duke and one other person. Yes, sir. So, Madam, let's hear from you.
Don't worry, to come.
Okay. My name is Humwa Abdullahi from GTV. I just want to ask, is there any backup plan, just in case in 3 years' time we are not able to get the required quantity of bauxite to pay for the first tranche?
Let's take 2 more questions. There was Duke, there was you, and then there was another hand there.
Okay, my name is Duke Kawa, CTF from CTV. My first question is with regards to the whole facility. This is not the first time we've gotten or we've got big fish financing, quote unquote, from China. Between 2008 2009, there was a talk of the CDB loan. There was a problem with that. How to find out what lessons have we picked from that episode in this whole new arrangement that government is going into, so that we don't get disappointed as it happened in that regard. Just about 1/3 of that financing is what we got in. Fortunately, it ran into problem, a lot of them.
Deputy Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah taking some questions from the media, and he will be getting ready to answer, speaking about how government will ensure that due diligence is done in terms of this bauxite batter that the country is engaging in with the Chinese Sino hydro facility. That's upcoming.